I was doing something different. It was very easy to get publicity. Today, it's not easy to get out there. And then there are all these influencers. They've got these millions of followers, but they don't necessarily know about their subject. I tasted it. I said, this is not my recipe. So I realized it had been sabotaged.
As a woman, how did you learn to advocate for yourself?
You have to be better. Sometimes a little bit much more assertive. People ask me why there are no or not many women in the hospitality industry. And I say,
welcome to the Ek Woman podcast. This series is called Her Side of the Story, and it's going to be a tribute to the wisdom of lived lives. We're creating a bridge between generations, a chance for each of our guests to shape what it means to be a woman today and tomorrow. We're excited to have with us Karen Anand. Karen is a celebrated food writer, consultant, and entrepreneur who has been credited with shaping India's gourmet food scene. With a career spanning over 3 decades, she is known for elevating the conversation around local produce, food storytelling, and wellness through food. From hosting television shows to launching farmers markets and artisanal food products, Karen has bridged the gap between traditional Indian ingredients and global sensibilities. Her lived experience combines the sophistication of international travel with the rootedness of Indian culinary heritage. Karen, welcome to Her Side of the Story.
thank you so much, Monika. Pleasure.
Tell me, your work has taken you across kitchens, cultures, countries. When did you first realize food wasn't just about cooking, but it was about identity, belonging, storytelling?
I think I probably realized quite young because in principle, I am a writer. And I love writing. And I started in this world of food much later, but I was initially, I did international relations in French. My thought in life was, when I was young, was to do something with an international agency. So the idea of spreading things and being global was always there, but through food came much later.
When you talk about global sensibilities, is that because you were born and raised in England?
Yes, I was. I was born actually in India. My parents left when I was about 5 or 6. I grew up in the UK. I had no intention of coming back to India. Neither did my parents. They were there for a purpose and for a new life, and they thought their children, would be better off with a foreign education. And so I assumed I would be living in Europe.
Where in Europe?
Paris. I came back to India on a holiday to actually keep an eye on my grandmother, because nobody else was, I was quite Vela, nobody was free. And I stayed. I met Mr. Anand at a party and fell in love. And 3 or 4 months later, I was married to him.
Oh, that's so romantic.
Well, it was at the time. It was a bit foolish, but...
you only live once and you do these foolish things.
Yeah.
And, no regrets. You've got 2 beautiful boys.
Absolutely.
So tell us then, how did food land in this journey of yours?
Well, he was a filmmaker, and he did a lot of his company, more than he produced, but more than anything, was one of the largest exporters of films. It was very nascent days, and therefore there was a lot of popularity in what I did, and people would love to come to dinner and so on, because I had all these exotic things that I conjured up. And then I would learn more. I would go to visit a friend who was in the UN in Bangkok, say, and sat with his cook for 3 weeks and learned a bit of Thai food. And so, and I think having an academic background, it meant that I kind of formatted everything, kept recipes, wrote things down. I'm not... it was a bit wild and wonderful, and it was definitely cowboy days, but I made sure I documented everything.
Which is very, very forward-thinking of you.
Yeah, because that's what I do. I'm a bit OCD, and I have to write everything down. And therefore, I had all these recipes that I accumulated.
Cooking is how you started, but your career is not about cooking.
No, I actually didn't start with cooking, Monika. I started with writing. I had a fantastic editor called Dina Vakil, who I think was at Express or Times in those days. So she asked me to write a column on film, actually. So I started writing on film. Then I said to Dina one day, I'm not really into, I can report, but it's not what I know, you know. And then she said, well, you know, I'm interested in food. I think it was Dina, it was Bachi or one of these,
Right.
write on food. And so I had these long-standing columns on international food. And when it became something to do with India, for example, Malvika Sangvi came, and then Jamal Sheikh, they all said, why don't we do a kind of men can cook? So I used to have men come in and cook.
That,
Yeah, men come in and cook. And so that's where it all started. We used to do it in a restaurant, say, this is a dish, or this is the theme. And all the men used to sort of write in and say, yes, we'd like to come and show you our dish. And so it started with writing, and then it went into a kind of personality thing and long-standing columns. And then it became food when I started a salad bar in Pune.
So you were an influencer before influencer was a thing.
Yeah, we had magazines. Remember, we used to read in those days. So we had magazines, and you know, I still have like covers and things, and people were looking at me like, you were on the cover of, you know, I don't know, these magazines,
Femina or something, Society, and
the Society and Femina and some food magazines. And I said, you know, I didn't even, we had no PR in those days. So they used to call me because, you know, I was a woman, and so it was nice to put me on the cover and whatever, and I was young and a little bit different, and I had a different accent.
And you were a path breaker for that.
Yeah, I was doing something different. Yeah. So it was very easy to get publicity. When I look back today, it's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah. It's not easy to get out there. And then there are all these influencers who, I must say, I'm nothing against. They've got these millions of followers, but they don't necessarily know about their subject. And then you've got people who know about their subject who scorn at the influencers, which is not correct either. But I think, you know, Monika, physical appearance, unfortunately, it's everywhere, does make a difference. If you are young and nice looking, I see some of these influencers in food, for example. I was with one a few months ago, and she was just she had a whole team there taking pictures and reels of her. But she's a food influencer. I never saw anything, I didn't see a comment about food, you know. She would change her outfits, like 3 times a day. She's a beautiful girl. Change her outfits, and you would see her by, you know, it was in Udaipur by the lake, beautiful shots of reels. And there may be a little bit of food coming in, but it wasn't sort of, it wasn't like going to a bazaar or something, you know. I mean, I go to bazaars, I go to markets, wherever I am. That was much before I started food as well. Because I think we're going to talk about it, but it's all part of, it's not just about cooking. It's the provenance of your ingredients. It's the joy of going somewhere like that. It's meeting vendors. It's finding out their story. And so even in my book, my latest book, I don't talk about just recipes. It's all about
this one, right? Masala Mein Saab. I read it. I mean, you've signed it for me, and it's fantastic. Just reading the stories in there. Have you ever felt that your kitchen was like a lab, or you know, somewhere where you could give lessons to women, or like a playground or something like that? You know, because you have done cooking shows on TV too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done cooking shows, and I've done. My kitchen continues to be a lab because we have, you know, a range of products and these sort of boutique artisanal products. So a lot of the first kind of testing does happen in my own kitchen, and then we take it to I take it to my food tech, and we do the chemistry part and sort of make it and balance it,
right,
so that there is shelf life, etc., etc. So I mean, I've catered to many people out of that kitchen, but I do mentor people. I've got a young boy just now who called me, who did this salad bowl. I wouldn't call it a salad bowl, but he did. And then I realized, you know, he's got a farm with a lot of vegetables, and he supplies thalis, very good thing in Kothrood, to workers for 70 rupees. So he has to do this mix of vegetables. So I said, okay, you've got this bowl with interesting ingredients. I wouldn't call it a salad. Why don't we call it a protein bowl or a Buddha bowl or any bowl? So people realize they're eating a full meal. Because if you're selling it to me as a salad, there's no greens in there. There's a bit of radish green, but there's a bit of rice and beans, and it doesn't sing salad to me, because also there's no presentation or anything. So, in one day I met him on Sunday. He came to a trunk show I was doing, and I explained this to him for half an hour, 40 minutes. And he took some of my dressings, and I said, just experiment. The next day, this is the thing about young people, the next day he changed the presentation. He made the carrots long and the beetroot thing, and so all the colors came on top, rather than like a mishmash kind of doggy bowl. And he called it Dexter's Bowl. And the next day he called it some other bowl. And I said, for that, people will pay that money, but they won't necessarily pay it for a salad. So I continue, to do this.
When you talk about mentorship in your industry, what kind of mentorship do you think people do need?
I don't know whether it's a mix of training or mentorship. It needs both, because, we have the huge advantage nowadays of Google and of online, and people can look up everything. When I was young, we didn't have that. We had to go, I've got like 500-600 books on, not cookery necessarily, but food. And because every time I need it, I still buy books, I buy a book and I read it. So today you have Google, which is much, much easier. But I think there is nothing, which is nothing to substitute experience. So you have to go to the country. You have to at least try and see if you're talking about international food, you must see, as it is with anything, if somebody wants to learn about South Indian food, they must come to South India at some point. So it's not that we have to necessarily go abroad, or we have to travel within India. And if you want to find out about local food in Andhra Pradesh or wherever, you have to make make some effort to find local families, you have to do that hard work. And I think I know it sounds like a cliche, but there is really no substitute for that kind of hard work.
And hard work is something that you know very well. What kind of hurdles have you faced on your way towards success?
Well, there's been some, I must tell you, because it's always better with an anecdote. When people saw me getting into hotels, one of my first breaks was, of course, doing menus for people. I did the whole menu on the first floor of the Khyber. While I was doing these private things, it was fine. Then Priya Paul of the Park Hotels got me in to do training on for her management training students that were graduating, because a lot of them they were very well spoken and so on, but they never traveled out of India. So they had really no idea. They were serving all these things in their coffee shops and in their Italian restaurants and so on, but they had no idea really of how to place those things. So I would give them visual presentations of where I went. The original kind of reporting they weren't fancy pictures I took from magazines. They were my own things, and I put them into a presentation. Then I would give them the dishes as well to try, and it was very successful. So there was one particular chef. He said, no, that there was a pasta I was doing with a lemon sauce, and it had cream in it. And he said, oh, it's going to break. The sauce is going to break. It's going to fato because there's too much limbu. I said, no, it won't, because there's enough fat in there. So he was like, no, it's definitely. And I saw that when I was not there, he added more limbu to my sauce because it was not fatoing, and he thought it should. And I tasted it. I said, this is not my recipe. And he said, look, I told you it was fato. And then I made it myself, and it didn't. So I realized it had been sabotaged. So that came quite often with this particular chef in this hotel. And I would do another dish, and I would ask for a particular set of ingredients. 3 were not available. That wasn't possible because I know they were available, because I go to markets myself and know it's available in Delhi, So there was a little bit of sabotage like that.
Is that because you were a woman, or?
I think I threatened him. So partly I was a woman, partly I was Miss Paul's friend. I don't know where it came from, but I think it was insecurity. It came from insecurity. If it was a young male chef, he would have probably been a lot rougher, because the kitchen is a very rough place, and he would definitely not have been polite. You know, there would be all the BCs, MCs, and all of that. But because I was a woman, he was forced to be polite. But it was a mixture of both. It stemmed from his insecurity for sure. But my big claim to fame was being part of the pre-opening team for Dishoom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my big deal. So
Dishoom is one of the best Indian restaurants in London.
I don't know if it's the best, but it definitely has a very clear focus. I did the concept of the Irani cafe for them because they really had no clue what an Irani cafe was, because we wanted to do something around Bombay, but something that was politically correct and something which gave us a kind of base to then, go forward. And I think that they've stuck to that, which is very important. And we spent a lot of time. Again, by chance, it was the Lehman Brothers thing that happened. So the whole project got delayed by a year and a half. And in that time, we just made sure that the foundation was there. Right. So, yes, I was part of that team. I did the recruitment for them, the initial menu, much of which is the same. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. They've got a few new things. Yeah. Great team in place. Of course, the owners and the founders are very, very strong and very clear, focus and financial, which I think is a great combination. And then I did Colonel Saab, just I think during COVID. That was quite challenging.
Lovely, quaint little restaurant.
Yes.
I loved all the collection that they have there too.
And there I didn't really interfere with the concept because the owner was very clear on the concept that he wanted a sort of, I call it a four Sabyasachi, but that kind of over the top,
True.
And so I was just doing the food. Yeah. And the food was really about the journey of his father and mother, who was a colonel in the army, all over India. So it had regional food, which I thought was quite interesting. But it was really challenging to do that one because we were doing it during COVID. I was already on board. So we had to do all the trials first in their hotel in Karnal. Some of the chefs weren't available because they couldn't travel. My main chef came from Dubai. He couldn't travel, so I had to get other chefs that I'd worked with to help me. So it was all crazy. Yeah. But it all came together eventually. Yeah.
So since the time you started in your journey in the food industry to today, what kind of changes have you seen along the way?
Well, huge, Monica. One is that a lot of ingredients are available. I still think we have problems in India because of the high duties. We don't get the wines we want. Well, hopefully that might change. I've just read there's this big thing signed. So I think alcohol definitely is going to be cheaper in the near future. We're a big consuming country. Strangely enough, after COVID, all the big booze companies with whom I've worked for events and so on have all said that their sales have really dropped. So hard liquor has really dropped. Tequila is fashionable, but only with a certain amount of, certain type of people. But generally, people are drinking less spirits now, definitely less wines. So that's going to be interesting. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, just the mushroom story, but there's no doubt about the fact that there's so much available now, so much on the net. I was saying I did this trunk show at the weekend, and to give you some idea, something to do with chili, like the chili garlic there, for example, which is our big seller. It's a chili garlic crisp, which I've developed, and I think it's great. I eat it every day, We know that's going to sell. But, for example, the jamun jam sold. Now, whether that's a mixture of the fact that I was doing tasters and the fact that they like it because it's a nostalgic thing, they think it's healthy. I'm kind of associated with healthy things. But strawberry online is our biggest seller. But at that trunk show, it was jamun. And pesto. Who would have thought of pesto 5 years ago?
What food would you associate with you, like when you were in your 20s and then 30s and 40s and 50s, if you think about it?
I started off doing salads at the salad bar. Whether you put chili, whether you put garlic, whatever you do, herbs. So I don't think I have changed much. I've learned a lot more about other cuisines. And I think, I got back to writing on Indian food. Why? Because I think we have it all in India. My second husband, when I first got into his family, and we were all both in our 30s, and Maharashtrian household, and I saw this bowl of koshimbir or, salad on the table, all chopped up like that on the table. I eat a big bowl of salad every day. And there was everything else, there were 10 other things, vegetables and dals, as you have with Gujarati food and whatever. And there was this tiny bowl of, so it was placed next to me and I assumed it was mine. And I just took it and everybody looked at me, gasped. And I just started eating out of it with a spoon. And then I thought, why are they staring at me? Because they didn't know me well enough to say anything. Then I realized halfway they started laughing, Then I suddenly realized it was for everybody. So
that small bowl.
It was itna se, so I thought, well, it's mine and it's by my thali, And then I realized, we eat so little raw in India. And I'm very much part of this whole brigade that we should eat more fresh and raw. And I still do that.
So talking about flavors, if you had to bottle your 20s into a flavor.
That's very interesting. I would say, I would just say something tasty and fresh in my 20s. 30s, I don't know. I would still say tasty all the way, maybe a bit more fiery. Today, quite spicy.
Really?
I think so. I eat the chili garlic every day, and I think I'm a slightly different person. I'm not afraid to speak out today.
Do you have any favorite ingredient or spice that you like to use, or maybe even that you've discovered now that you wish you had discovered earlier and you didn't
People ask me,
understand
what's
it?
your favorite ingredient? And I think salt is very important.
Salt.
And we were discussing that yesterday. Himalayan salt, good sea salt. I source my salts locally. I don't sell the Garonne from France or Malden sea salt from England. We have our own salt. I get my salt from Goa, my sea salt from Goa, which is excellent. And I get Himalayan salt now, is available everywhere. So I think good salt is very important because it does make or break a dish.
So what we get in the grocery stores, the iodized kind,
It's rubbish. No, I haven't used it for 10, 15 years.
So what do you think an Indian can't live without?
Spice.
Spice, yeah.
Whether it's chili or pepper. Chili probably. I mean, Kashmiri chilies I think are fantastic. They don't have the punch, but they have the color and they have the flavor. But I think an Indian can't live without chili. And I feel when I travel, I love to experiment with where I am. But about halfway through, I'm kind of craving chili.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not Indian food necessarily, but that's why I take my sauce with me. I travel with the chili garlic. And even on the labne yesterday, I put a little bit because you're supposed to put Aleppo chili on that, which is it's from Aleppo. So you can't get Aleppo chili now in 4 countries,
How do you think women's role has changed in food prep, in the culinary industry, from just cooking for your family to, how have they evolved?
People ask me about this and why there are no or not many women in the hospitality industry. And I say, it's simple. One, they are very, very long hours in a professional kitchen. A lot of women can't do that because they have families. Having said that, the head of ITC corporate chef is a woman. The Taj corporate chef used to be a woman. So, women have got there and they're usually extraordinary. That's why they've got there, because it's tough. And they have to have support of family to be able to stay out of the house for so it's just a practical thing. But now there are a lot of young girls who are doing bakery so I often tell people, listen, it's not just about cooking. If you do hospitality or you do hotel management, there are other careers that you can choose. You can choose sales and marketing, which usually women are very good at. You can do food journalism. You can do food photography, food styling, which usually, again, women are better at. There's lots of social media, there's lots of other careers now which have come up around food.
But if you're a food influencer, make sure there's some food.
It'd be nice if there's food around, yeah, even if it's a pretend dish.
So from being a columnist and author to running a brand and creating farmers market, what was the turning point where you went from cooking to actually becoming a rounded food entrepreneur?
There were various, stages, but I think when I was in Paris as a young girl, that was a time when I kind of thought maybe I'd do something in food. Then when I did the salad bar in Bombay after Pune, that was the big explosion. And really I got all my big work and consultancies and all that. So that's food. It was probably around the same time, because after that, I couldn't manage to sustain it because I had two children by then. Sasha was very young. I mean, 6 months old when I started the salad bar. And it was I used to come up and down from Pune. You know, in those days, Marutis and all of that.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have fancy
8 hours
cars.
on the expressway.
Well, it wasn't just the 8 hours. It was the fact that, you know, we had these limited cars and you just went with it, you know. And it took a long time.
I think at that time we traveled way more on the trains.
We did trains. And if I did cars, because it was 3 a.m, I would finish a party or catering, and I would, you know, get the driver to drive me because it was 4.5 hours. And I remember once I actually saw a tiger in Lonavala, because we were leaving at 3, 4 in the morning after I'd catered a party, and I was coming straight back home because I wanted to be home before the kids got up. And we were going, you know, on that Lonavala road where the ghats are, and I thought it was I thought I was having a dream. We actually saw a tiger crossing the road. Writing is a big part of what I do, and now I've started this little travel company because of my writing as well. And then people like Britannia, Pepsi got in touch with me, again, women, to do some recipe development. And I had the fortune of meeting and being trained by their food technologists. So it gave me a huge, other learning and a huge skill set. So when I had that as well as the taste, then I started doing recipe development for other companies like ITC and so on. I had a friend who, in fact, was there last night. She introduced me to a friend in Calcutta who used to do travel for women's groups. And it was really to connect her friends from school, and it became a bigger circle. She said, now the trips I do, because she's absolutely brilliant at organizing, one, I need to put in interesting experiences on those trips. Secondly, it's not 10, 12 people anymore. They want me to take tours for 20 and 30. Can you come and help? So I said, well, sure. And we did some trips together for clubs in Calcutta where we had 20 and 30 people. And we found with two of us, it worked really well. I would do the curating of the experience, and she would bring the people in and handle the finances and all that. And it was a fantastic partnership. And then about last year or the year before, she had some personal issues and couldn't continue, and said, why don't you continue it? Not with her group, but just generally, you know. And so I did. And so what I do is I do little bespoke trips. I usually do it where I have a connect. So therefore I can bring more to the table. So if we do Italy, I do a dinner with Salvatore Ferragamo. If we do Uzbekistan, I have a couple of designer friends. It's not all about food. Of course, the food is a given. And if there's a great experience, I make sure people have that in terms of food. But I bring in other interests and now part of what I think I am. So I bring in textiles. I bring in a cultural aspect. As I said, there's all women. It's not always women, but women always want to go somewhere interesting if we see a local designer, usually using local fabrics. So in Uzbekistan, I found someone who's now become a friend, who has a brand called Bibi Hanum, who does, she sells all these years. She's been selling to Oscar de la Renta and all these people. Now she's going a little bit bigger. Beautiful clothes. So, but only she has her own looms to do harikats and so on. So that's what I like to do. So I've done Italy, I've done France, where I have a connect in
South Africa.
I haven't done South Africa yet, but I do want to do it because, again, I have connects there. So Italy, France, Uzbekistan a lot. And there aren't too many people who do Uzbekistan outside the normal travel agent.
Tell me something, as a woman in a room, how did you learn to advocate for yourself, especially if they weren't welcoming?
You have to be better. You have to be sometimes a little bit, I wouldn't say louder, but definitely I'm much more assertive today, good, bad, or ugly. I'm, when my husband Yadu wants to, joke, he sort of calls me boss lady, or he, some sort of stupid kind of little joke that he has. Because I said, are you telling me I should tone it down? Or he said, no, I'm just referring to you because that's how you are, I boss in the house, I boss outside. Unfortunately, you become more assertive. I definitely wasn't like this in my 20s. I was much softer, didn't know what a lawyer was, didn't know I could be cheated in business, which I was. I think one has to have a couple of knocks in life to sort of wake up. I had a big knock personally and a big knock professionally with a dodgy partner who came in. The other one, we were both involved in the business, and he came in and promised us lots of things and didn't pay us. And it was 2 years in court, and it was horrible. And we came out of it. It was fine. We came out of it. I also had my husband as great support, and he's very good when things are down. He's excellent during COVID. He's excellent, when all of a sudden sales dropped. We all of a sudden had Big Basket that came to us and said, do, a line of products for us. And that kind of kept us going when hotels were closed. And our main business was hotels. So, he's very good at that kind of, rising from the ashes, sort of phoenix-like. And so the support is amazing. And my family have always been very supportive.
Is there something you wish you had started doing in your 20s or 30s that you started only in your 50s?
Oh, for sure. I wish I was financially more savvy. I wish I had learned, because I didn't come from a financially savvy family. My mother didn't really work. She just did little things. But my father was an engineer, and he was a professional. We weren't really business people. And Yadu also didn't come from a business background. He came from a more entrepreneurship professional background. And his father had lots of knocks because he didn't. He took CAC to a level, but he had his own furniture business. And he didn't take it to the level it was supposed to, because I think he didn't have the financial acumen, although he was Gujarati and you're known for that.
I'm a Gujarati and I am not known.
Exactly. So, but he wasn't either. And he was a very creative man, and a big furniture business in Bombay. And, it burnt down. There was no insurance, this kind of thing. So looking back, I wish, and I think all women, even if you don't like it, I know a lot of women, I say, do you know if your name is on your house or on your property? Oh, no, we don't care. But you will care if something happens to your husband and your brother-in-law says go. I think we are not, we close doors too much, because they're not pleasant. You have to open those doors, and I wish I'd done it earlier. Maybe not in my 20s. I like the fact that I was creative and a bit flu when I was in my 20s. It's nice. It's a nice way to be. And I think I would.
You chuck Cambridge for Paris.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I used to walk down, I was lovely, and I used to wear I wasn't Indian at all. I was very, what they call a coconut, brown on the outside and white on the inside. And I spoke French like a local, and I would walk down the street and men would stop in their little sports cars and invite me over to Le Havre for the weekend it was a great time. So I don't begrudge the fact that I went to Paris, because I did really, that really formed the way I think about things. And I still love France. But in my 30s, I wish I was financially and a bit more savvy, business-like, a bit more savvy. I think I would have been in a more secure place.
What advice would you give a budding young female food entrepreneur today?
One is that obviously you have to work hard. Very important. Secondly, influencer jokes aside, I think you have to be presentable looking. And I think whether you're a man or a woman, I think that goes a long way. I think a lot of young people, whether it's Gen Z, Gen X, millennial, think it's not really important. You put on a pair of jeans and you put on a T-shirt and off you go. That's not the hospitality industry. I'm not saying you have to wear a suit and be a hotel-like person, but I think presentation is very important, whatever it is, even if it's a T-shirt and a pair of trousers, and you have to look cool. So I think presentation is important for a woman. And we have the advantage of makeup and hair, and which a lot of men don't have, right? If you're not particularly good looking, you're not good looking. But I think now is the time, not 20 years ago. And now, being the age that I am, or we are, but certainly I am, I don't have any lena dena. I can talk about whatever I want. I don't have to worry about mother-in-law or this or that, or somebody watching who may not like it, or, you don't have to swear, but you can talk about women's issues. I mean, in the UK, where I go often, as you know, there are things on menopause on morning TV. You know, people put on morning TV in the kitchen, and there's a half an hour program on menopause, because it's important for the men to know why the women are necessarily behaving like that, why they're why you have hot flushes. And there are many men, I think, who would empathize if they knew.
Yeah, I mean, TMI, but I also talk to a lot of young girls today, and I'm like, the importance of having an orgasm. You have to know yourself, and I mean, I don't know.
And what
she
it
might
is.
even edit it out, but
Well, a lot of women, as you know, still in India get married very young. I'm sure they know what it is now from television or whatever, but they're not having it.
Yeah.
Because they're married to someone they met it when they were 18 or something.
And now you've got 2 boys. It's something like a mother would pass on to her daughter, possibly, maybe. Now, what kind of cultural norms have you broken raising your 2 sons?
Well, they both cook. So that's, they don't see it as a man-woman thing. Both their partners, one is a doctor, doesn't cook at all, and is not afraid to say that. She's fantastic in tidying everything up and washing everything up and all of that later. She's very good at that because she's a doctor and she's a surgeon and she loves doing all of that. And she just simply doesn't cook, loves food. Not ashamed to say it, which I think is great. She has lots of other skill sets, and a beautiful girl, by the way. And the other one cooks a bit of traditional, but she's also been in boarding school since she was 10 or 11. So she cooks a little bit. She knows very well how to get things organized, which is also important. So both the boys cook very well. I think they both empathize with their partners. Very important in lots of ways. And I think also, which is what I'd like, I mean, you lead by example, right? And I think Yadu has been very good with that. And they both chosen strong women, which I think is not a coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and an outspoken women. And so we don't live together, which is the greatest advantage, because we see each other when we want to. We don't have to do all that jugglery. I mean, look, last night we had a dinner and everyone's talking. And so when you're living with 2 generations or 3 generations, it can have its ups and downs. I think that's what young men, the things I've imparted. And I think they, I remember there was a time when one of them had an issue, a little bit, marital issue, up and down. And he said, I want to go and see a counselor. And you would have never heard men say that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He initiated, not her.
I have to say, this generation, even younger than your children, they're very open to therapy. It's suddenly...
Oh, no, Gen X is just the opposite.
Yeah.
They think something's wrong. There's some... there's a mental problem, or there's I've suffered. They've all suffered. I find sometimes it's taking it to the other extreme. I don't know whether they really suffered or they just get up and get on their horse and go,
Okay, we have a rapid fire round.
Okay.
Dinner party at home, casual chaos or perfectly plated?
I think I would call it calculated chaos.
Okay. The ingredient you'll never run out of?
Never run out. Good salt, as I said, olive oil.
The best meal you've ever had, where and why?
I would probably say in Australia with a chef called Tetsuya, who's Japanese French, because I had his food also at a time of my life where that kind of food was not being done by anybody. And I thought it was just amazing.
A food trend that should disappear?
Lots. All these froths. I don't like all these froths and torches and lots of fiddly things.
If not food, your creative calling would have been?
Or writing, for sure.
Your favorite restaurant?
In India or out?
In India and out.
In India, I like simple places. I still like Trishna in Bombay. I still like places on the beach. For me, it's very the surrounding is very important.
Karen, thank you so much. This was amazing to speak with you. I have one last question for you. If you could speak to your 25-year-old self, what would you say to her now with the hindsight you carry?
My 25-year-old self. Look before you leap, I think.
Okay.
Personally, more than professionally. Professionally, I think you just have to work. But I think personally, it'd be nice to sort of count to 10 before you do things.
Do you think you've reached the pinnacle of your career?
Not at all.
So, what do you see in the future?
Well, I'm just exploring my other things that I enjoy. I enjoy art. I enjoy travel to a point. I think it's nice to be home as well. But yeah, I'm kind of exploring that. I mean, these boxes, for example, a friend of mine did the design, but I did the box, I did the color, I made sure it was practical and it could be couriered. So I like to do those sort of, that kind of design, bring people together and then do a project. So yeah, I've got lots of things ahead of me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. It's
It's been
amazing
wonderful.
talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Monika.